What's up, guys? What a night of fights. Great card in Tampa, Florida. Great finishes. Several fights could be fight of the night. I don't know which one's going to be. And I really want to start with that main event. Joanna Jedrzejczyk defeats Michelle Waterson by 250-45s, 149-46, and was just about clear domination throughout almost the entire fight. A couple really close calls, such as that first rear naked choke. Second time that Michelle Waterson got her back, and the head kick actually landed on Joanna, but the thing about Michelle Waterson's kicks, that's really the karate in the kicks. There's not really a follow-through like Muay Thai fighters or you see from Joanna Jedrzejczyk. It's a lot of snappy kicks, flick them out there without a step, and then just bring them back, retract them back into stance. And when you do that, yes, they're fast, they're surprising, you could throw them like a jab, like a lot of them say, but the power is not there. If Joanna or Rose Namajunas or any other female fighter who throws more of like a Muay Thai kick when they're throwing roundhouses, it would pretty much KO or stun everybody. This is the problem with some of karate kicks. They're fast, they can catch you at any given moment, but the power is just not the same like a Muay Thai kick. And that first rear naked choke got pretty close, and I think it surprised Joanna, but Joanna does something when she gets taken to the ground. She wants to get back to her feet right away, and I have to give it to her, man. She hustles. Like, she gives up her back, though, every single time, crawls to the cage extremely quickly, and then tries to stand up. And from that, Waterson's quick enough to get the hooks in and work for the rear naked choke afterward. But you also have to give it to Joanna's submission defense. Her rear naked choke defense is on point, man. Getting two hands on one, turning it over on the other side, and once she's able to turn enough or get Waterson to let go of one of the hooks, then Joanna spins Waterson's grip to the other side again and turns into her. I mean, Joanna's grappling is just getting better and better, and to the point where she was actually confident to grapple with Waterson, trying to take her to the ground, took her down a couple times, which is something she never does in fights. One time almost looked like she was going to go for a Darce choke and all sort of stuff. Pretty much the only space that Waterson has a big chance of winning, Joanna was comfortable enough to go there. And that just showed the dominance in this fight. If you see Joanna trying to grapple with you, the fight is pretty much not going that well for you. And at the distance, man, Waterson was just stuck. Plain and simple. She was getting picked apart. And it's not like she could have done something. Yes, she probably could have done a few things differently. But I just think she didn't have the tools. Like, she just doesn't have the technical approach to beat or get the better of Joanna in the striking exchange. It's just, I don't think she just has the capabilities. She tried many things. She says she was reaching too much. But here's the thing, man. Even if she was going to try to set up with punches or something like that, she was already at too far of a distance to really set up without Joanna catching on to something. And Joanna was keeping really good distance like she always does. And even if Waterson was going to like set up a jab or feint or angle or whatever it is, Joanna's just going to back away. She seems a lot faster than Waterson with footwork. And here's the main thing, man. Waterson was too flat-footed against a longer and taller and bigger fighter in Joanna. Because of that, she was stuck at a distance that Joanna was keeping her at to even make her boxing at all effective. So she resorts to kicks, but even when she kicks, the power is not the same as a Muay Thai fighter because they're snappy. She caught Joanna with a head kick. It just didn't really faze her that much. And if Joanna ever closed in the distance a little bit too much, yes, Waterson got 2 takedowns in the fight, but usually, like 90% of the other ones, she was just driving it to the cage and trying to work from there. But when she was driving it to the cage, she was getting overpowered by the bigger fighter. Joanna was just clearly dominating the fight and making Waterson pay leg kicks after leg kicks after leg kicks, body kicks, went for a few head kicks, that front kick to the face, which pushed Waterson back. Yes, you have to give it to Waterson. She is very tough, but it's not something we didn't know about her. I mean, we know Waterson's very tough, and this fight showed it, of course. And I liked her answer afterwards. She said, even though everybody's giving her praise for taking damage and surviving from it, she said her intention is not to take the damage. Her intention is to win. And I'm glad she's not taking the praise as like some sort of success. Because when you do that, you can put some water on that fire that motivates you. And yes, it was a show of toughness, but I don't know, usually I don't like hearing that sort of thing too much. Because it's like, it's not an accomplishment. You don't want to be known as the guy that takes damage. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the Homer Simpson. You don't want to be the punching bag out there like we saw with Thomas Gifford earlier that night. Yes, his toughness was even more magnified than Waterson's for the sole reason that he was fighting a 155-pound fighter who has dynamite in his hands and super explosive with his strikes rather than a 115-pound fighter. It's a bit of a difference when it comes to toughness and stuff, you know? And even Thomas Gifford, yes, you got to mention it because the beating he took is something you don't normally see in fighters. You still don't want to be known as that guy. Sometimes I don't like to call someone, you know, they're so tough, and praise them for it because it's like an insult to their skills. And I just think Waterson gave a very good response to it. So who these fighters should be fighting next? I think Joanna should get a title shot. I think she should fight Weili Zhang. as Suarez seems to be injured or out of competition for some reason, Joanna should get the next crack. It should be an amazing fight. A lot more competitive than this one, because Zhang has the power to knock out anybody. She has really good grappling. I don't think it's going to work too much on Joanna, but the striking is going to be very interesting. I think Joanna might have an advantage, though, because she is faster. Her punches are a little bit more crisp, but she will make a mistake of closing distance when she doesn't need to. Her kicks are really good. I think she is a better kicker than Zhang as well, but we'll see, man. Zhang can come out there with a completely different approach. And as for Michelle Waterson, there's a lot of fighters open for her. I think Claudia Gadelha would be a good fight. Carla Esparza would be a good fight. Marina Rodriguez, if they want to build off Waterson's experience, I think it would be a good one for Rodriguez. So I actually like that one. I like Michelle Waterson versus Marina Rodriguez. And then we go to the co-main event. Cub Swanson defeats Kron Gracie by 30-27 in all scorecards. And what do you say about this one? I mean, it was pretty much a lack of skill from Kron Gracie to do what he does best and apply his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu effectively against Cub Swanson. Swanson even had his hands all the way to the ground, almost crouching. And because of that, it showed he wasn't at all worried from the striking of Kron Gracie. And you have to give Gracie some credit, the fact that he was marching down and actually composed under the firepower, only having 5 fights in his career. That is something you don't normally see, and I guess because of the consistent sparring he gets with the Diaz brothers and other guys over there, it might have done him some good to be composed. And he fought like Nick Diaz, kind of. Not with the same kind of boxing technique, but a very similar style. A lot of people want to say he fought like Nate Diaz. He did not fight like Nate Diaz. Nate doesn't fight like Nick entirely. The fact that Nate doesn't pressure as much as Nick does, with the same kind of front-heavy combination boxing and with counters, Nate doesn't usually fight like that. Nate pulls on punches a lot more than Nick does. Nick is a lot more pressuring than Nate Diaz is. And that's how Kron was going out there. He was pressuring Swanson with a jab, looking for some good combinations, but he really wasn't getting anything too good off. Swanson was just swinging from the bleachers at times, and he did have a hard time with the pressure to pick his shots at a distance. So what he did was, whenever he got clinched up with Kron, he just started blasting him. Going to the body, going to the head, straight right hands. The body shots were really getting to Gracie. It seemed like Gracie was getting tired. Again, for grapplers who have really good cardio and grappling, getting into a striking match can really do some damage to their cardio. You know, something they're not really used to. Same thing with strikers who grapple a lot. If grapplers strike a lot in a fight, their cardio is not the same. It's a little bit different. It's different to the muscle memory. It's different to what they're used to and what they build into their body for their whole life. It's a different kind of explosion, a different kind of pressure, a different kind of work on their body. And as the fight was going on, it looked like Swanson was getting more and more loose. A little bit tired at the end, but you could see his willingness to exchange and willingness to knock out Gracie was growing in the fight. You start to see a little bit of that Doo-Ho Choi Cub Swanson out there. And again, just like Michelle Waterson, Kron Gracie showed toughness as well. He ate a lot of punches, big punches from a powerful fighter in Cub Swanson. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is Kron Gracie needs to work on his wrestling, or at least use his wrestling if he has it, because he's not a striker. He's a grappler. He's been developing this lethal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu his entire life. And to go out there and just look to box with the occasional pulling of guard, it's not enough, man. The wrestling needs to be involved. A lot of these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters are just not developing their wrestling. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a pride thing not to work on other grappling arts and just thinking that theirs is the best. I know old school Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists used to have that thought, but it has to change, man. Wrestling is a good bridge to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If he goes out there and let's say he trains with, I don't know, GSP, someone with a good wrestling background or MMA, it will make him so much more dangerous. But if you have good takedown defense, there's not really much to worry about fighting Kron Gracie. Yes, he has pressure. Yes, his boxing's getting better. And he probably will eventually get to like a Nick Diaz, Nate Diaz level. But he's already in the UFC. He's 5-1, and he's already 2 fights deep in the UFC. That's not something Nick and Nate Diaz had before. And even when Nick came into the UFC early on, the UFC wasn't the same as it is today. It didn't have the same talent. He's fighting the absolute best fighters in the world 4 fights into his professional career. And that can hurt some of his progression or it can accelerate it. And I just really think he needs to work on his wrestling, because if he's just going to come out there with boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I don't think he's going to get that far, man. People are going to stuff the takedowns that he throws out there if he ever goes for them, and they're just going to mix up the striking with kicks and knees and elbows and boxing while he's just coming out there with boxing. And he's just going to suffer out there, especially in the featherweight division. I mean, we're talking about guys like Zabit Magomedsharipov, Max Holloway, guys with amazing takedown defense and could do way more than he can on the feet. So who these guys should be fighting next? I think Cub Swanson, snapping that 4-loss streak. He has a lot of options because he's not in the top 15. If he wants to get in the top 15, there is Arnold Allen, there is Ryan Hall, but I don't think those two will take Cub Swanson because I think they want to rise in the rankings. There is Mirsad Bektic, there is Shane Burgos. Again, those guys lower in the ranks, they want to progress. They don't want to look back at Cub Swanson. So it's going to be really hard to fight anybody in the top 15 for him. And because of that, there is a lot of options. There is Gabriel Benitez. I think that would be an amazing fight. Sadiq Youssef would be an amazing fight. I know he'll be up for it, and it'll be actually an explosive striking fair. Probably going to be a knockout somewhere there. Two guys that have the power that they generate. Sign me up, man. Sadiq Youssef versus Cub Swanson. And as for Kron Gracie, I've always wanted to see him fight Ryan Hall, but you cannot award him with Ryan Hall after losing like that, you know. So there are a lot of options for him as well. And I think him versus Kyle Bochniak would be a good fight. He can at least use some of his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, try to go for some takedowns. There is Brandon Davis, another guy he can do it with. I personally do actually like the Brandon Davis fight because Brandon Davis does bring the fight. He does go at opponents. He does have a very similar boxing game. And he is pretty decent in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not the best takedown defense. So I think it would be a risky fight for both of them. And that would make it fun for the fans. And then we go to Niko Price knocking out James Vick 1 minute and 44 seconds of the first round. Can we just say Niko Price has the most creative knockouts, or we can at least say he's probably the most dangerous striker off his back in terms of he will KO you with anything he throws while he's on his back. He knocked out Randy Brown with hammer fists, knocks out James Vick with an axe kick. Doesn't matter if you say an up kick. Technically, it is an axe kick. An up kick is more straight at them. It's almost like a push kick at their face. Axe kick is swinging down of the heel. And that's what he caught in James Vick's jaw. And I might be wrong. I don't know anything. This is an instant reaction, so I'm not checking anything up. Did it break Vick's jaw? Did you hear the sound of it? It sounded like something cracked, and after you saw Vick's mouth pretty open. If that's the case, man, that's terrible. So James Vick is coming off 3 losses in a row, 2 of them by vicious knockouts. And I questioned it before in my prediction video. Coming off those brutal knockouts, knowing that he has taken so much damage at lightweight while dehydrated, it's going to have lasting effects on his ability to take a hit. I don't think it mattered to take an axe kick to the jaw like that from Niko Price, but moving up to 170 for the first time and fighting a guy like Niko Price is probably not the best decision. I mean, Price is probably more powerful than anybody Vick's ever fought against before. And he's bigger than anybody's ever fought up against before. I mean, look at the guy's shoulders. You know he has power just by his arms. Looks like his arms were put together like some toy. And he has a freakish reach, leg and arm. I mean, he generates so much power in everything he throws. And he says it after the fight. He said, "I'm not looking to be technical. I'm looking to bring it to you. I'm looking to just fight you." And even if he's off his back, he's going to throw anything at you. He'll throw an uppercut off his back and still KO you with it somehow. And even though Vick seemed to have some success early, before the knockout Price was on his back, he was eating some good ground and pound shots from Vick. Vick just like nonchalantly stood up, tall stature, tried to bring the legs around, but he did it so slowly. And then just like kneeled down slowly and ate one to the jaw. Yeah, just a great knockout from Niko Price. 100% going to be the knockout of the night. Niko Price is always that guy that can be a top 15 fighter, but he just loses that fight that can put him into the top 15. And a fight I would like to see with him is probably Thiago Alves would be a good one. Warlley Alves would be an amazing one. That's actually if I want to see. Let's do Warlley Alves versus Niko Price. That would be a fight, man. And as for James Vick, let's do Carlos Condit. Sad to say where Carlos Condit's at in his career, but if he's still fighting, if he wants to keep going, I think there'll be a really good fight with him and James Vick. They're about the same size. They're both not doing that great lately in their careers, and one of them has to win, so I think that'd be a good fight. And I did miss the Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas fight, but I know Amanda did pretty well with the wild striking of Dern, and Dern really didn't go for that many good takedowns, a lot of single legs, I think, but another Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist who doesn't really go for great takedowns. But I really want to go to Mike Davis defeating Thomas Gifford by knockout 4 minutes, 45 seconds into the 3rd round. So here's the thing, man. Yes, toughness is praise. People want to give you some credit if you take a beating. But man, that was bad. That was really bad. That's one of the worst I've ever seen. Thomas Gifford was just getting blasted the entire fight. Had nothing for Davis. He tried to pull guard. He tried Imanari rolls. He tried to strike back. He tried a lot of switch kicks. Nothing was working. Everything was shut down. And he wasn't just getting picked apart. It was just a bombardment. And he just was fortunate enough to survive until 15 seconds left of it. We're talking about 14 minutes and 45 seconds of a terrifying beating to the point where he couldn't sustain it anymore. His iron chin took enough and it got cracked. And I think from a beating like this, his chin will probably never be the same. So this toughness that he has about him, I don't think it's going to be a factor after this. Mike Davis was pretty much target practicing, but trying to break those targets with every single shot he was throwing. And Gifford was in the way. He had no head movement. He's such a long and tall fighter, but he doesn't use it that effectively. He has to learn something different if he wants to stay in the UFC, I think. His entries weren't good. Just a lot of switch kicks, lead kicks. Wasn't really throwing a jab, wasn't really moving well. He was very stationary and just tried Imanari rolls, some takedowns, but he was losing footing on all of them. Wasn't following through with any of it. You could see it's not a wrestling base at all. He was just trying it on the go. And Davis, who's super explosive, he doesn't even need the best takedown defense. He could stuff those, just from his explosiveness and his strength. And Davis had to have been like feeling bad for the guy for a bit. I mean, he was just blasting him, and the instincts weren't necessary for Davis. He could probably think out there and be like, man, this guy's just eating it. To the point where Davis connects him, I think, with a 1-2 while angling to his right. And that was enough. Thomas Gifford falls flat on his face. Now, the corner has to do something, man. I understand the ref could have probably stopped it here and there, but if the ref is not stopping it, if he's not trying to protect the fighter, coaches, man, you got to protect these guys. These guys are not going to give up. Thomas Gifford's tough. Everybody who fights in this organization, everybody who fights in MMA, for the most part, are tough people, real tough people. They're not going to give up. They're going to keep going as long as their body can take it, as long as their brain can take it. And it's up to the coaches who are looking from the outside in, should have the best interest for their fighter. You gotta call it quits. What happened to the latest boxing one, where it was a very moving exchange from the coach and his fighter, and he was able to see that the boxer was taking so much damage, he wasn't the same in the fight, and he later passed away because of the damage. So even then, it was still a little bit too late, right? But the coach is the one who stopped the fight. You don't want to see that kind of stuff, man. If they're just taking a beating and they have no chance, coaches have to be realistic. I understand they have a lot of faith in their fighters, but you gotta be realistic, man. You gotta be realistic for their safety. You can always think, yes, but he can catch him. But yes, but he can do this. Yes, he can change this up. Sometimes those potential options are so far away from the fabrics of reality that you have to start thinking about the health rather than what can he do to win this fight. And a young fighter like Thomas Gifford, who possibly in the future can have a lot going for him, needs some more care, I think. And I don't think he should be fighting the UFC, to be honest. Mike Davis, he's had, a couple fights in the UFC. He has a loss in the UFC, I think. He's looking better. His striking is very dynamic. He's very dangerous. Like I said in my prediction video, he's an extremely dangerous fighter. But he's starting to pick things up now. And losing to him in that kind of fashion, and specifically the holes in Gifford's game, are too alarming to allow him to fight the best fighters in the world right now. I think he has to develop on the regional scene a little bit more. So yeah, great performance from Mike Davis. Nothing to take away from him. He did his job. He showed his skills. He's a very skilled fighter, a great future for him. Some concern for Gifford, obviously, And then we go to Alex Morono defeating Max Griffin by decision. I'm pretty sure there were 29-27s, right? Where Alex Morono won the second, Max Griffin definitely won the third. It all came down to the first round, and they all thought Morono won, which you can't complain with. A lot of people seem to lean to Max Griffin, but I don't see anybody calling robbery or something like that. The first round was so close, but Morono caught Griffin with the head kick in the second. So sneaky, threw a right hand, made it look like he was going to move out to his left, but then redirected to his own right, following through with the left high kick as Griffin was trying to intercept Morono with his right hand. Did not see the head kick coming, and man, did it cause some damage. You got to give Griffin, again, another tough fighter, you gotta give him some credit, man. 8 knees to the chin constantly, man. Banging his teeth together while completely stunned out of his mind. And he comes back, takes down Morono like a freight train. I mean, lift him off his feet, throwing him to the ground. Really trying to make Morono pay out there. And overall, just an amazing fight. You can make this fight of the night. Personally, I think this was fight of the night. Great performance for both of them, especially Alex Morono. And then we go to Davis Figueiredo defeating Tim Elliott by submission in the first round, 3 minutes and 8 seconds. I was a bit anxious or stressed out with Figueiredo's performance up until he finished Tim Elliott, because it looked like he was fighting the same way he was fighting Jussier Formiga, was not pulling the trigger. He had so many openings on Elliott, he just didn't throw anything. I mean, Elliott was doing all that funky movement stuff. He was giving his back almost, turning sideways and stuff like that. And Figueiredo's a sniper. When he's on, he is as dangerous as anybody. But it just seems like when he's not on, he's just not throwing anything. And it was going that way up until Tim Elliott went for the first takedown. I think it was a double leg. Might have been a single leg. And Figueiredo grabbed the guard right away. And Figueiredo just an easy guillotine, which shocked me a bit, because we all know how good of a grappler Tim Elliott is. I mean, rolling with Demetrius Johnson the entire fight was super impressive. The first time he hits the ground with Figueiredo, he's already in a guillotine and taps out to it. Super impressive by Davis Figueiredo, man. And here's the thing. If Henry Cejudo is vacating the title at 125, like they're saying, it has to be Joseph Benavidez versus Figueiredo for the title. A lot of people want to say, what about Jussier Formiga? He defeated Figueiredo. Yeah, but Jussier Formiga just got knocked out by Joseph Benavidez in his last fight. So it has to be Figueiredo. And that's a great fight. If Figueiredo's on, I think he wins. If he's not on, he's going to take some damage, but that's the thing. Figueiredo's a fighter. If danger comes his way, I'm pretty sure he's the kind of guy that will return and pull the trigger every single time. So that should be an amazing fight. And as for Tim Elliott, I think a fight with Brandon Moreno would be a good one. They're both pretty similar. They're very wild strikers with really good grappling, lengthy for the division as well. I think it'd be a good fight. And I do have to catch up on the rest of the fights. I was lucky enough to catch it at the Figueiredo fight. So I hope you guys enjoyed the reactions, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. My breakdown is probably going to come out tomorrow, if not Monday. So be looking for that. And leave in the comments below, what do you guys think about the card? I mean, insane card. I mean, the fight nights are better than pay-per-views most of the time these days. A lot more exciting, a lot more wild. And this one did not disappoint. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.